This podcast is sponsored by Active Skin Repair, a skin health company helping people heal with natural, non-toxic medical grade ingredients. Honestly, it's only the one first aid supply we have right now because Active Skin Repair can be used to treat a wide range of skin issues, including cuts and scrapes and burns and sunburn, which is huge here in Arizona, rashes and other types of skin damage. It's also safe and non-toxic, making it suitable for use on all skin types. I use it on my son's mosquito bites all the time. And it can even be used on rosacea and eczema and acne-prone skin.
Yeah, it's crazy. And seriously, with over 500,000 happy customers and thousands of 5-star reviews and ingredients that are safe and clean and can be used from your youngest member of your household all the way up to your oldest, everybody has one simple solution for all of your family's skincare needs.
So go visit www.activeskinrepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and get 20% off your order. Use code NOGUILT. That's activeskinrepair.com to get 20% off your order. Use the code NOGUILT.
I don't have those same external stressors that can affect your parenting style. Mm-hmm. So I definitely approach things differently in that regard of we do a lot more experience type things. We don't have to say, oh, that's not in the budget or be stressed about the money aspect because we're in a good place.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
And we have another lovely here today. We have the lovely Jess Hyman joining us too. So welcome, Jess.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, Jess is one of my oldest besties. Okay, that didn't sound right, especially considering today's episode. But what I mean was, we go way back. Girl way goes back to my college days.
1998.
Man. Yes. Jess and Glinda,
all the way back to 98.
Yes. They helped raise me.
Yes, not so to differentiate for those of you who listen to No Guilt Mom podcast. Jess is not the one who taught Bree.
No, that was
laundry.
Glinda. No,
that was Glinda.
I probably taught you something else that's
Jess
not as
Jess
useful.
taught me a whole bunch, and I'm trying to think you know what Jess taught me that always sticks in my mind? That there are towns in Missouri where you can park in the middle of the street.
That's right.
Oh,
Shout out to
really?
Lathrop, Missouri, baby. L-Town.
I have seen
one
some of
stoplight,
those, and I didn't know they're real.
Yeah, one stoplight, and you park in the middle of the street, man. It's crazy.
So, Jess, I'm interested. What has Bree taught you?
Oh gosh, a lot actually. You know, she was a rehab psych major, so she helped me deal with a lot of my wild emotions from having a questionable childhood, for sure. Oh. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have worked in drug and alcohol counseling.
That's what I was going to say. We worked in rehab together.
Yeah, we did.
So yeah,
in the good way. You're in rehab. You should just lead with that. We were in rehab together.
We had to go to rehab, and we said, yeah. No, that didn't work. Okay, I tried.
No, but also she's incredibly positive, and
she is.
So I learned a lot of how to reframe situations from talking them through with her. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
The toxic positivity on occasions. Now that I look back at it, I'm only saying that in respect to not the best romantic relationships of my life. You have observed not the best ones.
I have. As a matter of fact,
I was optimistic, but
we were in it.
Yes, we were in it to win it, and it still didn't quite win. That's okay. It's all good.
Well, today we wanted to have Jess join us because we're talking all about becoming a mom at a later age because it's still a little bit taboo in society, and we are going to get into it, and we hope that you enjoy the show. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
Okay, so a little while back, we did an episode about being proud of your body as a mom, and Jess had reached out to me and said, like, oh, you really liked that episode. And then we were chatting more, and I was like, are there other things that you feel like are sometimes hard to connect with? And you brought up the idea of this episode of how hard it can be when you didn't have your kids in your 20s, basically. Right? Like, and then
Mhm.
that made me go down a rabbit hole when I was looking into it some more, and I found I hadn't really realized this, but it totally makes sense, and, like, how much society can be just really judgy about it. So, like, what I found was that Cameron Diaz, like, I love her, first of all. I'm just gonna say that, like, I've always loved
Oh,
Cameron
yeah,
Diaz.
she's
Yes.
fantastic.
She hasn't been around like much in movies. She's kind of disappeared from the public
To
eye
raise her
Yes.
children.
to raise her
Yeah,
kids. Yeah.
and so Cameron had her 2nd kid a couple of years ago at 51, and she was just raked over the coals for that. Like, people were like, "Oh, you're too old. How can you do that? That was so ridiculous, and it's selfish."
It's unfair to the kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And yet we have 80-year-old
I
fathers,
know,
like the
right?
babies. Like, why?
The double standard
What a
is
stud.
like,
That's what they
oh,
say.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so you were
It's
saying that when I
awful.
had brought this up about how I was like, "Okay, I wanna, like, dive into this and how society, like, completely just beat up Cameron Diaz for this," but like you guys both said, doesn't do that to men. Jess, you were like, "Okay, that made
No.
me go down a rabbit hole," and I found a whole bunch of celebrities. So, I wanna hear more
Oh,
about, like, what did
yes.
you find for how many like, how? Because the stats support that there are more women having kids after the age of 30 than ever before. But yet society acts like that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. The societal standards are still stuck in some archaic time, which I mean, evidenced by when you're over 35 and you go to the OBGYN for your
Mhm.
pregnancy, it's labeled a geriatric pregnancy.
Ouch.
I've always
Like
found that so
from the jump,
ridiculous.
it already has the stigma
Yeah.
attached to it. And, for me, once I got over that, I was like, oh, actually, it just means that I get more medical care. I got a high risk doctor. I got ultrasounds regularly or sonograms regularly. So I got to see my little baby's face a lot more than other moms. So I marked that in the W category.
Mhm.
And one other celebrity that we didn't mention was Janet Jackson. She was 50
Oh,
when she had her first child.
Oh, right.
I
That's right.
forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like even Nicole Kidman, she was 40 and 43. Gwen
Mhm.
Stefani was 44 when she had her last child. So it's very common. But I think something that has changed is the emphasis for women to focus on their career.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that leads to, okay, well, once I've gone up the corporate ladder or whatever ladder you're climbing, then it's like, now I'm going to focus on the
Right.
family.
Yeah.
Whereas every family's
Yeah.
different, right? There are some women who aspire to be a mom and that is their primary goal. And
That's great
that's
for them.
amazing. Yeah. But they're
Yeah.
probably on the younger end of that bell curve
Well,
of starting their families.
it's interesting because like when I got married to my husband, I did not want kids young. I didn't. Like we got married at 24, which was very young looking back. I'm like, I was a baby. I thought I was so old.
No, right? You feel so old in the sense of like, I know so much at that
Yes.
age, right?
But at that age, his parents had him when they were 21. And my parents had me when my mom was 31, my dad was 34, respectively. So I thought like having kids in your 30s, that was like a done deal. That was like perfect time to have kids. You could focus on things and
Mhm.
it would be fine. And I was all on that path because I was working in entertainment. I was going to be like an executive. I was going to work on TV shows. And then all of a sudden, I didn't want to do that anymore. And I changed careers. And it was because I was starting a new career teaching. I was like, okay, we could have these kids now. But I would have definitely waited. I had my daughter at 27, which I feel is really young for me. And it was definitely not in my life plan
I'm
to do it that
curious.
young.
Did your new job of being a teacher influence your, okay, we can have a kid? And the only reason I'm asking is because having worked in that field, I feel like it's very well embraced. Like, you clearly like
Yeah.
kids, you're working with kids. So a lot of people have kids. Do you feel like that like
Yeah.
influenced your, okay, I think we could be ready now?
And I was seeing, like, we actually went to go visit his cousins in Denver, and they had a 2-year-old, and I saw, like, the 2-year-old didn't take over their entire life. Like, they were still pursuing other things
Uh-huh.
while they had a toddler, and that's what changed my mind. Because for so long, I thought having a kid, like, your life stopped, and there goes all your goals and ambitions and dreams, and you have to focus everything on your child.
Yeah. And I feel
Yeah,
like,
so
okay, well, and then Jess, I want to ask you this because I know this little fact about you. I know that when you were in college, your degree was to be in family studies. It was, right?
Yeah, child and family development
Right.
is my degree
And you
program,
did
yeah.
not have kids right away, hence this
Nope.
conversation. So do you feel like people gave you a hard time or viewed you like as what the heck? Like you have a degree and child and family and like you're not having kids?
Yes, especially my own family. So my mom was 17 when she had me, which scared me tremendously, which is probably why I was not in a hurry. Initially, I thought I would have my first child at 25, second at 27, wrap it up, be
be
done.
done.
But then
Yeah.
and then I ended up divorced at 26, so that already changed everything. And then I was like, I just don't know if I want to have a child. And my mom had a child late in life too. So my youngest sister is 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's wild stuff, right? So we span multiple generations just in our siblings group here. But I honestly didn't even plan to have a child in my 30s. I didn't plan to have a child at all, but
Life
it worked
happens.
out that I was 39 when I had him, and I would never change it. It's the most amazing thing. But I think probably to your point, Joanne, of seeing the child doesn't have to overtake your life. And we really
Mhm.
tried to embrace that, and we still do a lot of the same things that we used to, but we're also older. Our interests have changed. We're slowing down a little bit, like it's cool.
You got the fun times kind of like I would say sort of out of the way. And the reason I'm saying that is because so I didn't think I would have kids at all. And that was the interesting part too, like being in college with the two roommates that I had, Jess and Glenda, because they both were child focused in their
Hmm.
studies. And I loved my major on rehab psych, but one of the reasons I loved it was it didn't require child development. I didn't have to take any child courses because because
Mhm.
little kids weren't in rehab. It was adults. So I had no intention of having kids. And then when I got out of college, my job was working with kids. And I decided that, oh, okay, actually, kids aren't that bad. I kind of do like them. I think I want to do this. And then when I got married at 26, everybody at the wedding, not one person that was a family member did not come up to me and say, so when you guys having kids? I'm like, I am in a wedding dress right now. Will you just give me some time to breathe and move
Oh my
past
gosh.
this?
We had our wedding at a bed and breakfast, and so, like, we got to stay the night along with our close family. The next morning at breakfast, they served me fertility cereal, and I'm like, "Guys, I'm 27." Like, come on. Like, why is this
Wow.
pressure on women to have kids so damn early? Like, it
Right?
is unbelievable. And I imagine that along with some hard things about being a mom who's older, Jess, I imagine there's a lot of good things. And we're going to
There
get into
are.
that right after this. It's no secret that weight loss drugs and GLP-1s are all anyone is talking about right now. I mean, I've had friends on them. I'm sure that you have heard about them as well. And I wanted to let you know that you don't need to be rich and famous in order to get access to these medications. Through hers, you can get access to a budget-friendly weight loss program personalized just for you. Now, hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to GLP-1 weekly injections with the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy, as well as oral medication kits. So start your free online visit today at forhers.com/NGM. That's forhers.com/NGM for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Forhers.com/NGM.
Not available everywhere. Hers weight loss includes compound products products which are not approved nor verified for safety or effectiveness by FDA. Prescription products require provider consultation. Restrictions apply. Actual price to customer will depend on product and subscription plan purchase.
I am a water connoisseur and I cannot handle it when it doesn't taste good. I will toss out water that I'm like, no, that's not good.
And that is why we feel like you guys have got to check out AquaTrue. AquaTrue purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process. And their countertop purifiers, they work with no installation or plumbing. I mean, that makes it work for even me. It removes 15 times more contaminants than your ordinary water pitcher filters and are specifically designed to combat chemicals in your water supply.
And they have water purifiers to fit every type of home, from installation-free countertop purifiers to higher capacity under the sink options. They even have a Wi-Fi connected purifier and mineral boost options. Yeah, it's really cool. So AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, our listeners, you receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to AquaTrue, that's AQUATRU.com, and enter code NGM at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to AquaTrue.com and use promo code NGM.
So in our house, meal planning is a huge headache.
Mine too.
My husband and I like to eat more low carbs, kind of keto, but my daughter, well, you know her, she's a bit picky. HelloFresh has a new program called Build a Plate Meals. They are designed to let every member of your household create their perfect plate. So I have no more headaches trying to find a meal to accommodate everybody. I just find parts for everybody in the meal. And HelloFresh makes it so easy that everybody will enjoy what I'm making. And I am so looking forward to trying out the Fiesta spiced chicken with avocado salsa and roasted sweet potatoes this week.
What I love is HelloFresh's easy to follow recipes include pre-portioned ingredients.
And Green Chef and Every Plate, who you've heard us talk about before, they are now owned by HelloFresh. And now with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, I mean, seriously, there is something for everyone.
I have to mention, for a limited time, kids eat free. They eat free. So go to HelloFresh.com/NGMkids to unlock this exclusive offer. 1 free kids meal per box for 2 months while your subscription is active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/NGMkids.
HelloFresh, it's America's #1 meal kit.
Jess, what are some of the benefits that you see as having baby later than in your 20s?
Well, so the obvious one is that many of my friends have already been down this path way ahead of me. So I got to be part of that experience, but I also get to tap their shoulder and be like, hey, how would you navigate this? So that is immensely helpful. Also, we're much more established. I've been in this career for nearly 20 years, so I don't have those same external stressors that can affect your parenting style. Mm-hmm. So I definitely approach things differently in that regard of we do a lot more experience type things. We don't have to say, oh, that's not in the budget, or be stressed about the money aspect because we're in a good place. I'd also say, just general life experience of things to show him, to talk to him about. It just comes easier for me now than, before your frontal lobe is developed or whatever, and you don't have the good judgment that you do in your 40s. So,
yeah, I love the fact that you talked about how you have your friends who had kids before. You got to see how they've done messed up. So you know now and what not to do.
Yes. Yes, that is an excellent different side of the coin there. But yeah,
I'm trying to think. I think the funniest thing that always stuck in my head that cause I had one sister who had kids before me, and my sister Shanna, and I remember potty training because I think I was still in college, so I was coming back and staying with my parents. My mom was the main caregiver for my sister's oldest when she was at work. They used to give her a little treat for every time that she went to the bathroom, and eventually, she figured out that she could put apple juice in the potty. And that was like the big advice I gave people after that was like, don't give them a treat for just going because then they're going to start like doing things just to get the treat. And yeah, it was crazy.
I got
Yeah.
the advice for potty training from Josh's aunt who ran daycares forever. And she's like,
nice.
double them up on underwear, pump them full of apple juice, and then take a day.
Yes.
And you'll get them to go potty.
I love that. I love that. And then, the other thing too, and Jess, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but I say it all the time. Like, I feel like everybody needs the friend of Ghost of Parenting Future that has like the older kids that can tell you, like, I know it seems like you'll never get through this stage, but you will very soon. That should only last a couple of months. And I know sometimes it's hard to hear people say that because you're like, a couple of months. Oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because the one thing, and I know we're talking about positives, but the one thing that was challenging is because if you think about, the after pregnancy hormones, how that changes, and you're just so exhausted, especially like depending on if you breastfeed or not, and how actively involved your significant other is in the process. Then, when you're right around that 40-year-old mark, you've got the whole like perimenopause thing
Oh,
coming in and
gosh.
just to knock and mess everything up again. So it's like this wild roller coaster that you ride
Yeah.
of emotions and hormones and all that stuff. But so I definitely would be remiss if I didn't mention that because it is quite the effect.
Yeah. It's like,
But
do I ever get a break? So,
yeah. And because you were already tired, now you're really tired.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the hardest part about, like, having a baby older because now I see, like, my sister has an infant and a five-year-old, and I'm like, "Okay, like, I do not have the same amount of energy with these 2 children that I did with my own children." And
yep.
just because, like, being older and everything, but it's also a state of mind because, I mean, you know how your mindset influences behavior.
Mhm.
So, like, I know I'm done with kids. My husband has been saying for the longest time that is the benefit of having kids younger is that you have more energy. So I'm also wondering, I'm like, is this it all in my mind that I had more energy then? Like, is this just like me? It's like a self fulfilling prophecy. If you say you don't have enough energy when you're older, you're not going to have a lot of energy when you're older versus when you're younger. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are about that, but
I think for me, definitely, like, and you've heard me say this before, Joanne, like when I turned 40, I definitely, like, between the age of 40 and 42, there was a huge change that happened in me. Like, I cannot
really.
do what I used to be able to do. And so I also had the like freshly divorced. I got divorced at 38. So I kind of had that whole second in your 20s lifestyle for a little while. And I could do that. But then once I was like in 41, I'm like, oh my God, I can't go out to a concert till like 2 a.m. and then get up and go kayaking the next morning at 6. It doesn't work anymore. My and
That's funny. I could
my
never do that. That was never in my wheelhouse ever.
a lot of coffee was involved in that, but I could make it happen. Now, as much as I love doing it, that alarm goes off and I'm like, forget it. I don't know. Nope. Sleep. Sleep over
Yeah.
everything else.
And I have never been a morning person, but my husband and my child both are.
Oh, that
And
sucks.
so I have had to overcome that. I mean, yeah, it's not been great.
Do they?
But
My husband
here
has
we are.
had to overcome that because I'm the morning person,
Yes.
as is my
Joanne is.
son. My daughter, not so much. My daughter, I was like, oh my gosh, I woke up at 8:30 today. It's so late, and she's like, Mom, stop shaming late sleepers. Like you're weird.
Yeah,
Like no.
yeah. I always know it's coming when you and I go on a trip together, Joanne. I'm like, she's gonna wake me up at the crack of dawn. I know it. I know it.
I
Uh
usually go to the gym or
you
something
do.
like that. I
You
get out of the
do.
room.
You do. The last time we stayed together, we kept the blinds open and that got me. That whole
Oh yeah, that would
natural
never
light.
happen.
And now,
That's the secret.
well, after that trip, I made my husband go get blackout curtains for our bedroom. So now
Oh,
our room is completely dark because I'm like, I can't.
that's the trick for to be early. You just have the natural
I
light.
can't. I can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I was thinking that we have talked about the benefits, but we haven't talked a whole lot about those struggles and ways that you can overcome them. And I was thinking we should add that in here like right after this break. Today's podcast is sponsored by MIDI Health. I have to tell you guys, if you are a woman over 40 like I am, and you have started dealing with some crazy stuff like hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, vaginal dryness, weight gain, all of these things that you just are like, what the heck is happening to my body? I'm here to tell you, you don't have to accept it as another part of aging. All of these symptoms can actually be related to perimenopause and menopause. And yes, it can start in your 40s, but I have found a solution. MIDI Health. Seriously, this place is amazing. You can have virtual visits. Their clinicians are experts in menopause. They understand the frustrations and they also have full range of care options for you. Schedule a virtual visit and you'll come out of the experience feeling heard and with a plan that will work for you. Book your appointment with MIDI Health today. Visit joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids because now that those little ones are here, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.
Okay, so let's get into some of those struggles that older moms may face. We talked a little bit about it in the beginning with Cameron Diaz being shamed by everyone for being an older mom. What have you come across, Jess? Have you had anyone say anything unnecessary to you?
So there's always the question of like, oh, is this your grandchild?
Oh
Or
my
is
God.
this your child?
Ouch. Ouch.
I mean, so I look a little bit younger than my chronological age, but my husband looks older than me, even though he's younger. So I think that
It's
that's
the
really
hair.
where it comes in when they look at us. Yes, he's got the whole salt and pepper thing going on and whatever. So, and there are people our age, like that we graduated high school with or whatever, that do have grandchildren because
True.
they had
Mhm.
kids pretty much like straight out the gate, or some of them in high school, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's this weird thing. Like anytime you see someone who you're like, you're probably in your 40s, it could be a grandkid, it could be your child. It's this very strange place that
It
we're in now.
is.
But so that's kind of weird. But the other thing is just like connecting to other parents. Like my son goes to a private school, and most of the other parents in his class are, 10 years younger than us or more.
So how does
Depending.
that make it hard to connect with those parents? What are the struggles there?
Really, it's just more like when you're trying to talk to them about things other than the kids. The kids is the common denominator, right? Like that's
True.
the easy thing.
True.
But if you're trying to connect to them in any other social way, it's like, okay, they don't know the same movies or music or like have the same
But I was gonna
interests,
say, like you can't quote
Yeah.
anything, can you?
Yeah, you have to like have subtitles on everything basically, or like, But on the flip side, one of the positives is that there is a handful of kids in the class whose parents are our age. And we have like gravitated towards each other because we're like, we are in the same boat together. So it's not a support group that any of us had prior to, but we were brought together, from the kids
common.
being in this school together. And yeah, I dare say that those will be lifelong friendships all the way around. The kids love each other, and like all of us parents, have a great time together, all based on the premise that we were older parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of things are like great to like really help you get to know other parents. I mean, like finding something you have in common. I often thought that it's funny you say that it was all about their kids like 10 years ago, because I think that's really what it was for me too. Like it was all about my kids when my kids were going through elementary school. Unbeknownst to me that it shouldn't have been that way. That was the way to like a lot of depression and anxiety and just like I mean, I don't know about you, but I am of I mean, I obviously you just said it because I get bored when parents talk about their kids all the time. I'm like, "So what are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't really do anything else." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And
Yeah,
I
I can't
am
identify with that.
well, and I am the living proof of don't do that. Like in my first marriage with my kids, they were my everything. Like that was 100% all that I focused on. Now, granted, I didn't realize how unhealthy it was at the time. That was my coping mechanism for dealing with a difficult marriage was, okay, I'm going to just put all my energy into the kids and
You
focus on
protect
them
them.
because they're awesome and I love them and I can have a positive impact on that. One person can't make a bad relationship work. But then when we got divorced and we did equal parenting time, so I only had them 50% of the time, that was awful. That was like being dropped into the deep end, not knowing how to swim because I didn't know what I liked doing at all. I
Yeah.
had no idea what to do with my time when I didn't have my kids, and it was awful, and I wouldn't want that for anybody. So, yeah, finding interests outside of your kids is huge. And I know it can seem daunting when they're little, but it's worth the investment. And which is something great
Well,
that you had because you had your kids later. You had your established things that were you, and you didn't
yeah.
give them up.
Yep.
Mhm.
And, so they definitely have become like my support network for a variety of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
So one of the other challenges is when you're younger, your parents are largely involved in whether they're,
Yeah.
helping with childcare or just even an overnight. We don't have that ability. My husband's parents are both, or well, his mother is 76 and his father is 81.
Yeah.
They have
Mhm.
never been able to assist in the child care for us. And granted, when we had him, we lived in Dallas and we were alone. We had no one.
Mm.
And then the pandemic hit and
Ugh.
none of our family had seen him in months and months. And so we made the tough decision to leave Dallas and move back to St. Louis so that he could see, his family. And
Yeah.
we did that in thinking, oh, this is really going to open up some opportunities for us to have a life because we had none other than, what we would do with Brooks. So it was sort of like a sad realization. They were like, okay, well, we can't get the support in the same way that we could have if this had happened 20 years ago.
Did you ever ask them, or did you guys like have any instances where like you tried and they were like, "Oh no."
It was so the one thing I haven't brought up yet is the level of energy that my child has.
Okay.
He
Oh yeah.
he is off the charts. Highly intelligent, but just wild body. Like can't sit still, always on the move, asks 50,000 questions, which I know is age appropriate. But for them it's like, whoa, because they only had one other grandchild and he's 21 now. And he was a
Oh,
very
he can babysit.
see, nope.
Oh,
Terrified of kids.
Already taking them off. No.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Your Jess is like, you guys, no, no.
Hard pass.
That
Hard
face
pass.
dropped on that one.
He didn't even want him to like hug him there for a while.
They're
It was
sticky.
funny.
Ew, I can
It-
imagine.
But we're moving forward.
Okay.
He's a lot more open now, and Brooks loves him.
Yeah.
But he was a different child. Again, highly intelligent, but the opposite. Very
Super
calm.
quiet.
Grew up with adults. Yeah, just could play on his own. Everything opposite of my kid, basically. So they were like,
Mhm.
he's too much for us to handle. Even at like, I don't know, 18 months, they
Oh.
knew that. And they're probably right.
Yeah.
Because for the first 5 years of his life, we've just been keeping him alive. like protecting him from himself because he has no fear.
Just
Yeah.
keeping him
Well,
alive.
That's my nephew. That's my nephew. I wonder
Yeah.
if you and my sister could like share some war stories
I
because
bet.
Gosh, I'm
so
sure.
far she's had to deal with Hot Wheels trying to flush down the toilet, like 20 of them, 20 Hot Wheels he flushed down the toilet. Tried to headbutt a window with his forehead and broke the window. Was throwing rocks in the living room and cracked their TV.
And
So many
recently
things.
tried to build a swimming pool made out of dog food.
Dog
Didn't
food,
work out.
20 pounds of dog food all
Didn't
over
work
her
out so
living room
great.
floor.
We're still waiting for
That-
the reasoning behind that one. You need to finish that
That
conversation.
he mixed with water
Ew.
because he wanted to swimming.
That's disgusting.
So there's
And
gravy.
this is the 5-year-old?
This is the 5-year-old, yeah.
Yeah. No, that totally tracks.
Yeah, that tracks.
I can't. Oh God, I can't. I'm trying to remember what was the 5. I don't. My daughter had a lot of energy. She would not sit at the table. She would like stand and dance next to the table during meal times. I had to teach her in school to like tap her foot when she like wanted to get up but couldn't, and things like that. But I'm trying to think. I think the worst that I had, and this would have been toddler, was when she decided to get some scissors and cut her hair. She cut chunks out of the dog's hair. She cut
That's creativity.
holes
She's
in
like,
her
hairdresser.
clothes. All of a sudden, she had all these
Yes.
shirts that had like little patches because my mom sewed on patches. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun times. Now I have to go to senior information night tonight for my
can't believe
oldest.
it.
I know. This is the crazy part, right? Like, and this has got to be the weird part of the weird part for you is that, yeah, like our birthdays are a month apart, 4 years of college together, got married around the same time and everything. And I've got a senior in high school and a junior in high school.
Yeah. And I have a going into public school kindergartner.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to remember, I can remember, like I just said, like I can remember big parts, but not the day-to-day life of the 5-year-old.
Have to block it.
Maybe have gotten
I think people do.
I think we block it.
Seriously.
We definitely block it because when I'm around my nephew, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of energy. And he'll be like, Auntie Joe, come play with me. And I'm like, I'm here right now. I love you.
Yeah.
I'm trying
We
to
played already.
I think the next big awesome thing was when my kids got into first grade, they were able to start bathing by themselves. And that was like, oh my God, 20 minutes of silence consistently. It was amazing.
No, kids getting older is a wonderful thing. It really,
I know,
really
but it's
is.
also
Like,
sad. Like some of the things that I'm like, this might be the last time he does this. Or when you don't know that it's the last time. I mean, obviously, there's so many things that you won't know, but just like how he says things funny. you know,
Record
like
it.
all of those
Record it,
things.
man. You could listen to it
I know,
later.
and I'm not very good at that at all. I need to
Oh.
do better. But I'm like the only person in my household that takes pictures or videos. So, I'm
Ugh,
sure that's a
whole
shared
nother
experience for
episode.
a lot of people. I know it is.
That's a whole other episode about how the mom is always behind the camera and never in the pictures.
Mhm.
I like honestly don't miss my kids as toddlers ever. Like I even look back at their pictures like when they were younger and I'm like, oh, that's cute. But then I'm like, and I like them now. Like they keep being funny, they keep being interesting. Things surprise you about them.
Yeah, it's like there's
Um,
something good about
yeah.
every phase. And
There is.
And there's some things that you just let fall away.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the blind love of the under 5. And it was so big on their face, too, like how happy they would be. And now, granted, yes, there was sadness. And I think I'm letting that phase out of my memory because now I have like moody teens. But at the same time, something amazing happened yesterday. I was having a not great day and my daughter just got her license and she had the truck and I'm like, hey, I need to have this script picked up. Can you go by and pick that up for me at CVS? First of all, hallelujah, because it was 110 degrees outside and I didn't want to go out. So I was like, yay, she went out in the heat. And when I talked to her on the phone about it, she's like, well, why can't you go to CVS? I'm like, I can. I'm just having a sad day and I'm just trying to pull myself together. So if you could do this for me, it would be a great help. And she's like, okay. So she went, got the prescription, comes back home. And then goes, here you go. And then she goes, and here you go. And she handed me my favorite candy. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's so sweet. A 5-year-old wouldn't have been able to do that, but they would if they could. They
Yeah.
they don't have the resources, but that was really sweet. So like, that's something
That
that
was
like,
really
as they get
sweet.
older, you're like, yay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really good thing.
And then
to
tomorrow, I'm sure
acknowledge.
she'll be upset with me about something, probably because I can't give her the truck to go somewhere, or I tell her she can't go somewhere.
Yeah, always,
Yep.
Yeah.
always
The
that.
ebb and flow.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. It's been so interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people out there in our podcast land can definitely identify with having kids later and also like the benefits and joys that come with it. So, thank you again.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was so awesome to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, and you know what? If you feel like this episode resonated with you, tell us about it. Leave us a review on our podcast. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what more episodes you would like to hear going forward. We'd love that. Or again, if it resonated with you, share it with a friend. Share the love, people. Share the No Guilt Mom love.
And until next time, remember the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple-to-digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.